I'm Johnny Massacre and welcome to the Johnny Massacre Show. On tonight's show, loads of cool shit. Trump versus Twitter. The death of George Floyd. That's not so cool. Designer Louis Vuitton face masks. Contact tracing is the new communism. Free Solo movie review and PS5 games reveal. Oh, and some shit about China too. Girl, am I good to you? So let's get cracking. Trump versus Twitter. Loads of shit is going on. President Trump has waged a war with Twitter. And this is not surprising. So Trump won the 2016 election despite the best efforts of a largely left-wing mainstream media and big tech monopoly. And they're obviously not going to want Trump to win again. So at some point, they were always going to ban Trump or delete some of his tweets. And it finally happened. So what happened exactly was, well, I'm going to take you over to my screen and we're going to look at an article on the British Independent newspaper that has a really annoying video that's trying to load. so come over to my screen, you beautiful people. Can you see that? I think you can. So let's read. The Independent says Trump threatens to close down social media platforms which silence conservative voices after Twitter posts warning under his tweet. President urges firms to clean up your act now without any apparent irony. So this is what I don't get. Everyone's against Trump. The Independent, the name suggests that these people are free thinkers, but it's just dripping with bias. It's dripping with bias. When it talks about silence conservative voices, it puts apostrophes around it as if that's not true. If you had to bet on your life that social media platforms don't silence conservative voices, would you do it? Ask yourself that question, because I know what the answer to that is. So they do that in the opening title, and then instead of just saying President urges firms to clean up their act, it quotes him, clean up your act now, in capitals with the 4 exclamation marks to try to make him look foolish, and then added without any apparent irony, trying to mock him. So this is the world we live in. This is why Trump may well win again, because people are so snarky and snide about him and just the average person in America who he represents that people are going to vote for him. I just hate articles like this. It treats me like an idiot. Oh, Trump's a bad person. Thanks for telling me. Anyways, let's read the article and find out what Trump has done this time. It says, Donald Trump has threatened to close down social media platforms that do not support his agenda, a day after Twitter posted a fact-checking notice on one of his tweets. Social media firms suppressed conservative points of view, the president claimed, without providing any evidence. You've got to be fucking kidding me. You've got to be fucking kidding me. Have you looked at the Twitter trending recently? It's just liberal hit piece after liberal hit piece. There have been endless exposés on Google, on YouTube, on Pinterest, by Project Veritas. Everyone and their grandmother knows that conservative voices are suppressed to all fuck. If they do it on the left, it's all right. But if anyone does it on the right, they're demons, they're hellspawn, they're absolute cunts. How can anyone even suggest that conservative voices aren't silenced online? Fuck, man. This is, sometimes I think I'm going to wake up from this clown world. And I hope I do. So the article says, Mr. Trump advised the companies to clean up your act now. It is unclear whether the president's professed goal would be compatible with the US Constitution. Oh my God. So this article is actually defending Twitter and saying Trump telling Twitter to clean up their act is basically going against the US Constitution. I presume it's against, they're suggesting that what Trump is doing is against free speech. Now, Twitter has censored Donald Trump. He uttered some words into the digital mist, so to speak, and then they were just snuffed out by Twitter. They were censored by Twitter. So how the fuck is Trump telling someone who censored his free speech, which is protected under the American Constitution, unconstitutional? I can't read this fucking article anymore because it's just so it's so dripping with bias. It's ridiculous. But the tweet in question is about this is what he tweeted. Trump said, "We can't let large-scale mail-in ballots take root in our country. It would be a free-for-all on cheating, forgery, and theft of ballots. Whoever cheated the most would win. Likewise, social media, clean up your act now." So The article says Twitter's fact-checking. So the liberal fact-checking, the liberal narrative. Twitter's fact-checking notice was posted on a previous Trump tweet that claimed mail-in ballots could allow widespread voter fraud. It immediately led to a presidential eruption accusing the platform of completely stifling free speech. I don't understand how this is even an argument. How could anyone argue that having mail-out ballots is not open to abuse? So you get this letter through your door. Anyone can sign it, send it back. You don't have to go there, turn up in person and present your ID. And anyone who sends a bit of paper in is going to be counted as a vote. So you could just print up thousands of these fucking things, mail them in, and it's all right. How could you possibly say that's not open to abuse? This is what I hate about the left so much. And I am not on any part of the political spectrum. I guess where I grew up, I was kind of a lefty. My beliefs were kind of along the lines of, it's about one country, man, imagine all the people. And everyone's nice and everyone's welcome together and we're living in this kind of socialist utopia. And then I kind of started to realize that the people on the left just lie through their teeth 24 hours a day. I'm reading an article mocking Trump, saying that mail-in ballots could be open to abuse. And it's so obvious they can. You don't even need to see any evidence. You don't need to look at any facts at all to know that if an election is going to be judged on a piece of paper being sent in, basically anonymously, it's not going to be fair. Who would possibly want that? And who would say otherwise? So the people on the left, whatever is true, but it's not part of their narrative, they just go, it's not true because blah, 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 like this article. So that's what's going on. Trump has a point, and Twitter censored him for that, which is fucking insane. So it had to happen at some point, but we're just getting started, people. Things are going to get a lot messier. So do you know who the Twitter fact-checking source was? Do you know who it was? Fucking CNN. Twitter using CNN as their fact-checking source. That is a massive red flag to start with, because everybody knows they have no credibility at all. And so the debate now is basically, is Twitter a company providing a service, or are they a publisher who decides what is published and where? And there is a Section 230 of the Communication Act of 1996, I believe it was, gives immunity to the tech companies when they offer a service when people post something that may be against the law. So what that means is Twitter provides the tools, but if somebody uses those tools and posts something illegal or the hate speech or something, it's not Twitter's fault. As long as Twitter aren't a publisher and aren't editing shit, as long as Twitter just basically provide a service. But everybody knows that all these companies, these private big tech companies, just edit everything, and they turn them into kind of left-wing cesspits. And anyone who denies that is just lying. They're straight up lying. Come on now. Anyone with a brain knows that's what they do. So, you know, a real news website selectively edits information. And Twitter is saying they're not doing that, but that's literally what they've just done. And so they should be responsible for what's put on the site if they're going to edit it. That's the whole kind of argument here. And I'm really glad this has happened, because it's about fucking time. I'm tired of going onto Twitter and you have the main trending things and you have a topic and it says fact check. Fuck off with your just tell me the fucking facts. Don't tell me, well, this is what we want you to believe. Fuck off. Just give me the facts, you cunts. It's really annoying. Why don't the Conservatives make any sites like this? What's wrong with the Conservatives? They need to fucking step their act up. So there was a tweet by Marco Rubio, and I'm ashamed to say I don't even know who the fuck that is, but I do recall the name. Rings a bell, mate. So this is what Marco Rubio said about all of this. He said, the law still protects social media companies like Twitter because they are considered forums, not publishers. But if they have now decided to exercise an editorial role like a publisher, then they should no longer be shielded from liability and treated as publishers under the law. So it's quite a difficult position they're going to find themselves in now. I don't know the processes of actually trying to regulate Twitter, but you can bet your ass there's going to be a lot of pushback in the various courts in the complex legal system of America. But you think on paper it would be easier just to not get involved, right? Just let people write what they want. But then the problem is, if people say something illegal and you're liable, you're never going to be able to police all that shit, and you're basically going to lose all your money from lawsuits. So it's a difficult one. It's a really fucking difficult one. But all they have to do is just don't edit shit, and the people are going to be responsible. I think I'm getting a bit confused now, because let's be honest, this shit is a bit confusing. But the point is, you want all they have to do is stop editing shit. Then if people post some sketchy stuff, the people will be held liable. That's all they have to do. So stop making an effort. Do you really, really, really think Twitter are good people and they want to help everyone and they want to make the world better? Of course they fucking don't. All they want is money and power. You cannot tell me that Twitter are good people. They just do it for political reasons, and they're trying to take you for a chump. So we're just getting started, people, and I'm sweating like mad because I turned my fan off so it's not going to make noise in my ultra-sensitive $10,000 mic. Mwah. So I'm fucking sweating like a pig, but let's continue. So now I'm going to take you through the escalating battle between Donald Trump and Twitter. So I just fucking love Donald Trump's timeline, man. I turn it on and I cannot believe what I'm seeing. And I just love the fact that someone is in office who kind of speaks like a regular person. Everyone loves the pearl clutching. If you go into a Donald Trump thread and look at the messages, it's like peering into a fucking vortex. There's so many triggered people and so much pearl clutching. Oh, can you believe what Donald Trump said? I can't believe he said that. And then you've even got people in the middle who say, well, usually I don't mind him. I think he's quite amusing. He's not that bad. But this tweet or that one's, oh, shut the fuck up. He's just a guy saying what he thinks on Twitter. How cool is that? The president is just kind of shooting the shit with people. I think it's amazing. But I will say, for the first time ever, Donald Trump did a tweet that came after this where I thought, mate, you really fucked up with that one. You've really fucked up. We're going to get there. This shit gets so much crazier. So anyways, in this escalating war between Donald Trump and Twitter, look what Donald Trump tweeted out. He said, Twitter has now shown that everything we have been saying about them and their other compatriots is correct. Big action to follow. You're a bit fucking late, mate. They've been doing this constantly for the last 4 years. Why has it taken this long for you to do anything about it? As I said at the beginning of the show, I'm not surprised that suddenly now approaching the elections, they've started to censor his tweets. It had to happen. So then I'm looking at some random tweets on Twitter, and there's this guy called John Levine or Levine, however you pronounce his fucking name. And this is very interesting. So he says, this person is the head of site integrity at Twitter. So Twitter, the authority, the fact-checking authority who's regulating Donald Trump, the guy who's regulating him, or partly responsible for it, is this guy, Yoel Roth. And these are some of his tweets, a guy who works for Twitter, head of integrity. He says, I'm just saying, we fly over those states that voted for a racist tangerine for a reason. Do these people know how comedic they sound? They make people like me go to the right. I cannot be involved with these people who are so simple-minded. Donald Trump's orange, he's like a tangerine. It's not funny. What's funny about that? And these people are supposed to be all about tolerance and whatever. And they're the first people to kind of basically judge someone. They look at him, he's a bit fat and his skin is tanned. They judge him on his skin color. And these are the people who are supposedly all for minorities and stuff. It's so stupid. This is all so stupid. It really is. This guy says, another tweet of his, today on Meet the Press, we're speaking with Joseph Goebbels, I can't pronounce it, but that's some serious Nazi motherfucker, about the first 100 days. So yeah, comparing Trump to a Nazi, yeah, we get it. He's nothing like a fucking Nazi. There's no one going to concentration camps. The economy was booming before China fucked it up. He couldn't be further from a Nazi. I don't even need to go into reasons why comparing Donald Trump to a literal Nazi or a literal Hitler is ridiculous, because that basically means that Hitler wasn't so bad because Trump's not so bad. So don't even make that lazy comparison. It is fucking lazy. The guy's other tweets include, yes, that person in the pink hat is clearly a bigger threat to your brand of feminism than the actual Nazis in the what. I can't read the shit. It's just so dumb. So those are the people working for Twitter who are censoring Donald Trump. And then you've got articles like in The Independent gaslighting Donald Trump and saying he's paranoid. It's funny. You can read any article you want about this Twitter censorship. And they all fall flat on their faces pretty much within the first few paragraphs, if not the first paragraph. They're so easy to dismantle. You can't criticize fighting back against censorship. Who wants to be censored? Why don't we just censor the author from even giving his opinion that Donald Trump shouldn't be able to do that in the first place, right? It doesn't fly. None of these articles fly. So yeah, this guy that we just highlighted, who's head of integrity at Twitter, apparently he leads the teams responsible for developing and enforcing Twitter's rules. And he's calling him a tangerine Nazi. So I've got loads of tweets up here. I'm just going to kind of read through them. A guy called Stephen L. Miller said, Twitter wants to control facts and disinformation, and they can't even control disinformation trending on its own website. What a hilarious avoidable dumpster fire this is. So he's basically saying that Twitter have opened a can of worms by censoring Donald Trump and saying he's wrong. It's basically turning the spotlight onto them and all the shit that they get wrong constantly, and misinformation and disinformation that's trending there. So James Woods, he's a very prominent conservative speaker on Twitter. He says, no speech should be censored, libel or assassination threats accepted. Even borderline ranting by the mentally deranged should be protected. And then he did a link to Kathy Griffin, that psycho ginger comedian who's not funny at all, who said something along the lines of, we need to get an injection, a syringe, and inject Donald Trump with oxygen to kill him, basically. That's going to kill you. So it's all right for comedians to talk about killing Donald Trump, murdering him, but Donald Trump can't call out Twitter for just talking shit and saying that mail-out ballots are okay. So you've got a whole round of people now bringing up misinformation, disinformation at Twitter that hasn't been censored. So it begs the question, why are you censoring Donald Trump, but you're not censoring any of these other people? So let's have a look at Tim Pool's tweet. He says, factually true tweet designed to spread misinformation by driving assumptions. So from the Pew Research Center, it says COVID-19 deaths have declined in Democratic congressional districts since mid-April, but remained relatively steady in districts controlled by Republicans. So, okay, that's basically saying that COVID-19 is way worse in Republican-controlled states and districts. So let's have a look at the graph that has been cited by Pew Research for this. So, deaths have declined in Democratic districts. So we've got fucking shitloads of deaths from the Democrats, and then they've reached this massive peak, and then at some point they're going to have to decline. But then in Republicans, they've been relatively stable. So that, when you read the headline, it sounds like it's not going away in the Republican states, but it's dropping in the Democrats. The reality is it's way higher in the Democrats and it's just started dropping. Republicans has always been lower than Democrats and it's just remained low. So how can these things stay up on Twitter, but Donald Trump gets censored for saying mail-out ballots are bad? Like I said, you simply cannot deny that these big tech companies censor conservative voices. You can't. And if you do, I'm sorry, you are experiencing cognitive dissonance, or you're lying, or you're in denial, or you're just a really difficult person. Why can't we all just why can't we agree on something that's so obviously true? I like this tweet from China is Lying. In relation to that graph, they compared it to something to do with The Simpsons. They said, Bart Simpson's school detentions have declined while Lisa's have remained relatively steady. So, of course, you know The Simpsons. Bart Simpson is the naughty son of the family and Lisa's done really well. So she's remained relatively steady and Bart Simpson's detentions have declined. So that makes Bart sound like he's better than Lisa, but actually Bart's had way more detentions in the first place, aka there've been way more COVID deaths in the first place in Democratic states. So there's tons of information out there, tons of disinformation from left-wing sources if you want to find it. But Twitter just isn't censoring that. So again, why are they censoring Donald Trump? So then some people are actually pointing out that Donald Trump was right for questioning about these mail-out ballots. We've got Guy Benson, another blue checkmark bastard on Twitter. He says, among the good points Allah Pundit raises in this piece about the mess Twitter has created for itself with their new fact check feature is that their very first fact check of Trump was not actually accurate. So it's kind of coming to light now that the whole reason this war started was actually false, just like Donald Trump had said. So let's delve deeper into that. Let's see where Twitter went wrong. Tim Carney says, yeah, it was a mistake for Twitter to get in the fact-checking game. We all knew that ahead of time. And then he retweets something from a guy called Dustin Volts. Volts says, there was an error in Twitter's fact-check of Trump's vote-by-mail tweets, underscoring the challenge social media platforms face trying to arbitrate truth. It was corrected after an elections professional notified the company and me about the mistake. So, yeah, Twitter being massive hypocrites. So where exactly was Twitter wrong? You're going to see right now. So come to my screen one more time. Here we go. So Volts has highlighted this little fact. Twitter's fact check of Mr. Trump's tweet appeared to contain its own misleading statement, however, stating that mail-in ballots are already used in some states, including Oregon, Utah, and Nebraska. That statement appears to conflate automatic all-mail voting with absentee ballots in regards to at least one state. While all states allow absentee voting via the mail, only a handful of states, including Oregon and Utah, automatically send registered voters mail-in ballots. Nebraska, in contrast, recently mailed applications to every voter in response to the pandemic, and the state didn't automatically send ballots. So basically, it's nitpicking a little bit, but Twitter wasn't completely correct in what they said. So you can really see the problem here starting to unfold. So what did Trump do about this? What's the next round? This is the amazing thing. So Trump actually has tried to kind of rein them in. And I'm going to go over to CNN to show you what Trump has done. And the article is going to be incredibly biased. I don't know how anyone could possibly argue, like I said, that Twitter doesn't censor conservative voices, but I'm sure CNN will. Let's find out what Trump did. So CNN says Trump's dangerous move against Twitter. Dangerous move. So Twitter silencing the president of the USA isn't dangerous. And when they do that, him calling them out is dangerous. What can I say about that? That just doesn't make any sense. The real dangerous thing is Twitter censoring Trump, because who gets to determine what should be censored and what shouldn't? It's basically whoever's in power. And do you know who do that? Tyrants do. There's a very simple way around this to stop tyrants abusing this power and controlling what you can and cannot say or think, which is what all the communists do who live in absolute hellholes. Just let people say what they want. And an unfortunate consequence of that is some hate speech, but that's better than the alternative, which is basically fascistic totalitarian hell. So CNN say, President Trump signed an executive order on Thursday that seeks to curtail the broad protections that shield social media companies from being liable for the content published on their platforms. So Trump is actually trying to push this ahead now. He's trying to stop Twitter from ever doing this again. I have no idea if he's going to be able to do this, but this has been a long time coming, and I'm kind of positive about it. At fucking last, something is happening on this front, because I'm tired of all this left-wing bias from these big tech companies. CNN continues, the executive order aims to empower federal regulators to penalize companies like Facebook or Twitter for suspending users or removing content, for example, by claiming that doing so violates free speech. And it does. And have you noticed that people on the left say it's not free speech if it's hate speech, and hate speech is anything that they don't like. Anything that they don't like, especially conservative speakers. The article says, the executive order challenges the scope of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which grants social networks and other sites immunity from liability for the content that is posted on their sites. While it's unclear what the internet would look like without Section 230, it would probably look pretty much the same, but wouldn't be so ridiculously left-wing. Legal experts have suggested it could lead to a future where either websites don't allow any user-generated content for fear of being sued, or allow a very limited range of it. So I don't really understand this, because it's saying that this executive order challenges this immunity they have that makes these companies not liable for what their users post. But that's only if they provide a service, right? And if they start editing it like a publisher, then they are responsible. So like I said, why don't they just stop editing it? Just stop editing it. Stuff like Trump's tweet, just fucking leave it. People aren't stupid. People can read it and make up their own fucking minds. If someone's saying something along the lines of, I'm going to kill you, then fine, censor it. That's fucking obvious, right? If it's a threat of physical violence, that's simple. Anything else, all the trolling stuff, people can deal with that. You can get algorithms to kind of at least get rid of bad language and stuff. If you're that afraid of it, you can put those settings on. So look, Trump is going ahead with an executive order challenging Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. So it's going to be really interesting to see where this goes. And I hope he does manage to push back a little bit against these big tech companies, because they just make these sites really shit. So, okay, we're just getting started, baby. So Twitter, they fact checked that tweet. I don't know if they removed it, but they made you. I think you had to click on it to see it. It warned you that this might contain wrong information. So Twitter telling you that they have fact checked it, and I mean, fuck, man. Twitter are the last people in the world I want to be selectively editing my information. But the next tweet from Donald Trump, I think this was full on censored, so you couldn't read it, or it was censored more than the previous one. And this is where shit gets really fucking crazy. So this is the tweet I mentioned earlier that I saw from Donald Trump, where I thought, mate, I think you've gone too far. So have a look at this, right? This article on Al Jazeera says Twitter flags and hides Trump's tweet that glorified violence. Trump tweeted, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts," referring to protests about deadly arrest of George Floyd. So he said, "I can't stand back and watch this happen to a great American city, Minneapolis. A total lack of leadership. Either the very weak radical left mayor, Jacob Frey, get his act together and bring the city under control, or we'll send in the National Guard and get the job done right. ... Man, I mean, doesn't he have an advisor to say, Trump, mate, if you write that, it looks like you're threatening to let the army in and massacre everyone. So what's going on is this guy called George Floyd, this black guy, was killed by a white police officer. I think it was the one where he's putting his knee on his neck. And I don't know if you've seen it. It's fucking horrible. He just kills this guy by suffocating him to death. And there's been riots now about this, so that the black community are going out rioting and looting, and it's all a massive fucking mess. And Trump wades in on Twitter and says, if you don't stop fucking around, I'm going to send in the army and we'll get the job done right. And then his next tweet, he said, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. I mean, fuck, man. That is... When I saw that, I saw it and I just thought, okay, this is nuts, but it's all right. Then I went to bed and I woke up and I read it again and I thought, mate, you've really fucked up now. That's the kind of tweet that could stop you winning the election again, because it's just so fucking wild. And I get it. You know, Trump, he thrives on just being politically incorrect, and people kind of like the way he just sticks it back at all these people saying, you can't do that, you can't say that. But I think sometimes he gets a little carried away with it. But I just think it's kind of fascinating that someone like the president can actually be this straight up. He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't give a flying fuck about anything. So just unbelievable stuff going on right now. And Twitter censored that tweet because they said it was promoting violence or something. And the article says that, yeah, Twitter flagged and hid a tweet for the first time by Donald Trump. So the previous one, I don't know what they did. They basically censored it somehow. This one, they really censored it. And they said he violated Twitter's rules about glorifying violence. So, if the President of the United States wants to say something, I can take it. I can handle it. As I said, I'm not a baby. I can read it and make up my own mind. Why do I need my mummy Twitter, my Twitter mummy, who's going to come along and say, oh, you can't see that, cover your eyes, little Johnny. He's going to upset you. Fuck off. It's just a fucking tweet. I can read it. For goodness sake. That's all you have to do. Free speech, if you don't like it, tough. You have to let people speak. You're allowed to criticize it. He should be allowed to say it, and vice versa. That's what makes things good. You can be challenged for saying something shit. I'd rather hear something horrible and be able to challenge it and fight it than not hear it at all and let it kind of fester. And the only reason they're doing this, like I said, is just to win the election. They want to censor Donald Trump. They want to make him look like a bad person. They don't want him to have a voice at all, because this is the only way he can communicate with people, because most of the media is just relentlessly biased against him. So he needs Twitter. And now you're seeing this because they just don't want him to win the election. It's obviously what it's all about. And if you deny that, you are in denial, obviously. So, yeah, President Trump has signed this executive order, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it's going to go. Forbes said the primary actions called for in the order are for the Secretary of Commerce to file a petition for rulemaking with the FCC requesting that the agency propose regulations to clarify sections of the Communications Decency Act that will allow online platforms to be free from liability for items posted there, but which still give the platforms the ability to moderate content. And then I kind of just flicked through. I Googled Trump executive order to see what was out there. And all the headlines were attacking Trump's free speech and saying how he shouldn't have free speech. That really sounds like China. If you say anything bad about Xi Jinping, whatever his fucking name is, that wanker who's leading the Chinese Communist Party, you'll go to jail and you'll be censored. That's literally what China do. And no wonder that the fucking lodestar of Chinese philosophy is Karl Marx. And right now, the left side of politics masturbate over Karl Marx. They're fucking made for each other, man. If you can't see the parallels, again, you're in denial. This is fascistic stuff. You want to talk about fascism? Fascism is censorship. This guy has been censored. That leads to fascism. It's like fascism 101. Everyone knows that. And that's what you're seeing. So yeah, I just Googled Trump executive order. What comes up? NBC News. Victims of online harassment worry about resurgence after Trump's executive order. Online harassment is different from saying mail-in ballots are bad. For fuck's sake. Do you see what I'm saying? It's such a minefield. As soon as you call one thing hate speech or bad, you could basically say anything you don't like politically is hate speech, which is what they're doing. And NBC tries to conflate it and bring in the victims, which is typical Marxist philosophy. What about all the people who are victims of online harassment? That's completely different to what Trump did. It's not online harassment. That's a straw man. And then you got The Verge saying Donald Trump's executive order is plainly illegal, says co-author of Section 230. In the American Constitution, it basically says you have freedom of speech. So to censor Donald Trump is actually illegal. So it's like calling the sky blue, and then the liberal or the lefty says, no, it's fucking red. It's fucking red because it is. That's all they're doing here. And if you kind of lower to this level of gaslighting, you're just going to go mad because there's no logical thought behind it. It just doesn't make any fucking sense. They're just saying, well, he's wrong because he is. It's funny. It's actually quite funny. And as I said, most of these articles fall flat on their faces immediately. There's an article in The Atlantic, Trump's warped definition of free speech. There's only one definition of free speech. It's say what the fuck you like. They say the president is attempting to bring social media platforms into his authoritarian infrastructure or otherwise censor them. So Donald Trump was censored, and then he said, I'm going to shut you down for breaking the law, censoring me, and breaking the American Constitution. And now Donald Trump is a censoring person. That's like someone kicking down your door and like slashing you with a knife, and then you get out a knife to defend yourself, and they say, you're a murderer, you're trying to kill me. That's exactly what these people are doing. It's maddening. And what can you do about it? Well, I think you should just fucking ignore it and let Trump get on with it. And then you look at some of the Twitter comments. I know you shouldn't. It's like looking into the devil's arsehole. But you know, out of a morbid curiosity, I did. And there's a woman on here saying, well, fuck it, why don't you have a look? These are the kind of shit things you see under Donald Trump's tweets that I mentioned. I can't help but look at them. So you got this woman, the Amazon, saying, can you believe how quickly real Donald Trump put together that executive order on preventing online censorship? Maybe if had moved as quickly taking action to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, we wouldn't have 100,000 plus Americans dead from it. He's a failure and unfit for office. So COVID-19 came from China, and there's nothing you could have done about it. It's ravaged all the densely populated countries all over the world. And she's saying, she's basically using that, she's exploiting those people's deaths as propaganda to make Donald Trump look bad. When really, when Donald Trump was closing the borders of America, no Democrats were saying to do that. Democrats were saying, let people in. So this woman's saying he's unfit for office. But if the people were in office that she wanted, even more people would be dead. Show me one Democrat or any leading Democrat in America at the same time as Trump was shutting the borders, or even before, that was saying we should shut the borders and should do more. Show, because you won't find it. You can't. They weren't doing that. And so these people will just take any stick to beat Donald Trump with. They don't really care about the truth. All they care about is getting rid of him, because Donald Trump is an existential threat to these people. For some reason, these leftists kind of conflate their own existence with their political stance. And so me, I can separate my existence from my political stance. That's not who I am. You know, my political beliefs do not define me. I can switch off from that. I can hang out with people who have completely different beliefs, and it doesn't define who I am. But these people, their political beliefs are kind of conflated with their very own existence. And so that's why I think they take it so personally, someone like Donald Trump, because he feels like a threat to their own politics and therefore their own existence in their life. And they just overreact, and it's just crazy to watch. But I don't even know if these people believe half the shit they write. I just think they do it to virtue signal and look like good people. I mean, these are other things that I'm seeing on Twitter. You know, the left can't meme. Underneath all these Donald Trump tweets, you're seeing memes. Well, I wouldn't even call this a meme, but you're seeing stuff like this. Look, Donald Trump's orange. He looks like a pumpkin. This meme says, what do Donald Trump and a pumpkin have in common? They're orange on the outside, hollow on the inside, and should be tossed out in early November. I mean, even a 5-year-old can make a joke better than that. Come on now. So this is the shit I'm looking at in the Twitter hellhole. People saying 100,000 dead on your watch, as if Donald Trump killed those people, as if that wouldn't have happened anyway, if there wasn't a left-wing president in power. Then Donald Trump, he's ramping it up. So Trumpy says, regulate Twitter if they're going to start regulating free speech. Well, as they have just proven conclusively, that's what they're doing. Repeal Section 230. So he's going for it, mate. Donald's going for it. He's trying to rein in big tech. And now you're going to see all the big tech people play the victim and gaslight you and say, what, conservatives being censored? What are you talking about? We're the censored ones. It's not true. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, any big tech company that controls the free flow of information in the modern world is massively left-wing. All of them. So yeah, Twitter are fact-checking. So do you want to see what's trending on Twitter? What they kind of write? Are they the kind of people you want to fact-check for you? Well, you tell me. You fucking tell me. So this is what's trending on Twitter. Number 1, for COVID-19, even in the wrong fucking section, Trump makes unsubstantiated claim that mail-in ballots will lead to voter fraud. As I've already discussed, you'd have to be completely retarded not to see the potential for mail-in ballots to be abused. Anyone can sign without turning up without an ID. That's top of the Twitter, I should say shitter, of the Twitter trending charts. And they're the ones who are telling you what is fact and fiction. You know, these things are like services. They shouldn't be like publishers. They're so much like services that even someone like me who hates the way that they're edited can't not use it because you get so much information from them. So it's fucking kicking off, Matt. It's kicking off on Twitter. And I'm not very hopeful that they're going to be able to rein in Twitter. And I think they're going to ramp it up. I think Twitter are going to censor him more. And I think they're going to ban his account before the election. I really, really think they're going to ban his account. And I think they're going to do it. They're probably going to do it a month before. And if they do, I will be here to say, I told you so, because it's all political. So, in that first section of the Johnny Massacre show, which is ridiculously political, we did mention this guy called George Floyd, who's a black guy that was killed by a white police officer. And it has triggered riots. So there's people rioting right now. You can go online, see people smashing up shops and nicking stuff. And I'm going to read you one more time the Trump tweet that's when I read it, I thought, man, this is really going to get into trouble. He said, these thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd, and I won't let that happen. Okay, so he's sticking up for the guy. Then he says, just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him that the military is with him all the way. Any difficulty and we will assume control. But when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Thank you. This is crazy shit. Now, I'm far from one of those people that says, oh, Trump says this, and oh, so I look like a good person because look what Trump said, and I think that's wrong. I'm not one of those. I don't give a fuck what he says. But to say, okay, there's looting, and the rioting is happening, black people are mainly rioting because they're pissed off that a fellow black person was killed by a white police officer. So to say that we're going to send in the military, and when the looting starts, the shooting starts, I mean, it's so incendiary. It's not the best way to diffuse a riot. That's definitely gonna make people kind of more angry and loot more. So I saw that and thought, holy shit. But it gets better, people. It gets better. And Trump had to backpedal from this. So his advisor must have said, look, mate, you've got to fucking do something about that. So first of all, I'm pretty sure he deleted this tweet and then backpedaled on it. So he said looting leads to shooting, and that's why a man was shot and killed in Minneapolis on Wednesday night. Or look at what happened in Louisville with 7 people shot. I don't want this to happen, and that's what the expression put out last night means. It so didn't mean that. It so didn't mean that. He meant it. Oh, well, I think it meant. What do you think it meant? Let me know in the comments. But to me, it looks like he meant, if you're going to fuck with me, I'm going to send in the military. I'm going to fucking kick your ass. I don't think he's really saying he's going to go in guns blazing, but he's just saying, I'm going to go sort you motherfuckers out. But then he's saying, I didn't mean that. I meant that the other people are shooting, not the... So to come out and backpedal it just looks worse. You just dig in your hole. And I think he actually deleted the original tweet, which is so bad now because Twitter does need to be reined in because they silence conservative voices and they stifle free speech, and they tarnish anything as hate speech that they disagree with politically. And free speech censorship is basically the path to real fascism and totalitarianism, a horrible 1984 George Orwell world where you can't say anything for fear of getting punished. And they do need to be reined in for that reason. So Trump was in the right there, but then if he deleted the tweet that they censored, it kind of makes Twitter look like they're right, and then he's trying to backpedal, and it just doesn't look good, does it? And yeah, Trump removed the tweet, which is just I can see it. It just says the tweet is unavailable, so he did remove it. And you know, look, I admire Trump's level of non-give-a-fuckery, though. It is level 9,000, but still, it's definitely not a smart tweet. So. But now we have a narrative again of all blacks are being hunted and killed by police. And the mainstream media love this. So Twitter pretend that they care about people, and that's why they censor Trump's tweets. But no, it's just for political power. And the media pretend they care about black people, and they try to stoke up this narrative like white people are just out to kill blacks because they want black people to vote for them. And now you're seeing that in the mainstream media, and this really pisses me off. And this is a very touchy, controversial subject. So I'm just going to try to be as honest as possible. And I know emotions are riding high. And the thing is, there's no good thing to this because this guy, you must have seen the video, was murdered by this cop. And, well, I think we can all agree that that's bad, right? So at least we should be able to agree on something. But unfortunately, people can't. They can't even agree over this person being killed by a cop being bad. So the attack in question, as far as I know, so far, has nothing to do with race, as in a racial attack, because there were no racial slurs used. When the guy had his knee on his neck, he didn't call him any racial slurs. He didn't say he's doing it because of the color of his skin. He was just doing it. Now, that's not to say it wasn't a racial attack. It looks fucking sketchy, does it not? Some white cop, like, fucking killing this black guy. That looks pretty sketchy, but there was no explicit evidence saying it was a racial attack. And people are just taking what they saw and saying, this is a snapshot of them. They're taking it a step further. This is a snapshot of America. There's a systemic racism, all that kind of stuff. And I disagree with a lot of that. Although it's a fact that there are a lot of areas in America that are predominantly black that have a lot of crime and a lot of violent crime. And that is a fucking problem. And we need to sort that out. And what is the problem? The media is saying it's the white people. We've done it. And then some other people, I follow this guy. He's a black conservative commentator. He's called Larry Elder. And he talks about how the high rate of fatherlessness in the black homes contribute to crime and violent crime. And that needs to be fixed, is the lack of fathers and therefore knock-on effects of that, like lack of education and stuff like that. So we've got this whole debate now that's been kind of opened again about, white on black violence and stuff like that. So let's have a look at some of the facts. If it was indeed a racist attack, that undoubtedly makes it worse. So we should say that. But we need to look at the facts and evidence. So, the left-wing media, they love to kind of perpetuate this Marxist myth of systemic oppression, of capitalism and oppressor versus oppressed. They love it. They love to see a white cop with a knee on a black guy's neck. A lot of the hardcore left mainstream media love to see that because that's pure Marxism. It's the oppressor versus the oppressed. And their whole dynamic of kind of social welfare and pretending to care about minorities all comes from that Marxist philosophy. And they're basically exploiting the death to kind of paint all blacks as victims now, who are all hunted in exchange for votes and virtue and social currency, in effect. Most of the media do not give a fuck about this dead black guy. Really, they don't. They're using it to bolster their narrative. And so this kind of narrative that all blacks are victims and, white cops are out to get the black guys, a lot of that is actually false. But at first glance, you think it's real because blacks are killed at a higher rate than whites. So this is a fact. So let's get this up here. Have a look at my screen. We're going to look at the number of people shot to death by the police in the United States from 2017 to 2020. So, let's have a look at 2019 because 2020, the stats obviously haven't come in yet. So 2019, there were 370 white people shot by the police. There were 235 black people. Now, that number is really significant because blacks make up less than 20% of American population. I think it's around 13%. And yet there's nearly the same amount of deaths of black people as there are white people. So that means blacks are dying at much higher rates. Now, that is a problem. We can all agree on that. Why should that be that a relatively small percent of the US population is dying at a higher rate? So that is one fact we can all agree on, and we can all say that's wrong. And now we need to look at the reasons why blacks die a lot at the hands of cops. And a lot of people are saying it's because of systemic racism and all this kind of stuff. But there's obviously socio-economic factors. So as I said, blacks tend to live in poorer areas, and there's more crime in such areas in the States. Hence why you see higher rates of blacks dying. So if you go to Wikipedia and you look at homicide stats for USA, some really interesting figures here. It says, according to the US Department of Justice, African Americans accounted for 52.5% of all homicide offenders from 1980 to 2008, with whites 45.3% and other 2.2%. So although African Americans are just about 13% of the population, they account for half of all the murders. So there's a disproportionate amount of murders being perpetrated by the black community. The offending rate for African Americans was almost 8 times higher than whites, and the victim rate 6 times higher. Most homicides were interracial, with 84% of white victims killed by whites and 93% of African American victims killed by African Americans. So that you cannot dispute that. 93% of black people are killed by other black people, and yet we see this narrative that it's white people that are just going out and hunting blacks. And the sad thing is, it's so obvious that the real problem is black on black violence. And why does nobody talk about that? Because that's why people are dying. But you just want to make it look like white people are evil so you can get the votes for the black people because you pretend to support them. I fucking hate this shit. And this guy's died. It's horrible. He's got suffocated to death. And the people who are pushing this, all they care about is virtue signaling and this narrative and a political thing. And look, I think a lot of these people genuinely believe what they're saying, but they're so they're so blue-pilled that they can't fucking get out of it. There are similar trends, by the way, for blacks in assault and robbery. There's a new study about this, about black crime, black violence and stuff like that. And a recent study in 2019 shows whites are more likely to be killed by white cops. That's a fact. Blacks are more likely to be killed by black cops, and Hispanics more likely to be killed by Hispanic cops. So, but this study, it does, however, show that unarmed non-white civilians are shot and killed more often than unarmed whites. So on the other side of the argument, although this new research in 2019 says blacks kill blacks most, whites kill whites most, and Hispanics kill Hispanics most, as far as cops goes, it does say that unarmed black people are killed at much higher rates than unarmed white people. And that's shit we have to look at. So that apparently is true. And you're seeing that, I guess, in this video with this poor guy who obviously had he had an unjust treatment. Apparently, he hadn't even committed a murder or something like that. He didn't have a weapon. He's unarmed, like this study says, and he's a victim of that study, basically. So this study was conducted by Frank Edwards of Rutgers University School of Criminal Justice, Hedwig Lee of Washington University in St. Louis Department of Sociology, and Michael Esposito of the University of Michigan's Institute for Social Research. The researchers used verified data on police killings from 2013 to 2018 compiled by the website Fatal Encounters, created by Nevada-based journalist D. Brian Burgert. Under their models, they found that roughly 1 in 1,000 black boys and men will be killed by police in their lifetime. For white boys and men, the rate is 39 out of 100,000. So yeah, black people are killed at much higher rates, but they're actually mostly killed by black cops and not white cops, because black and white officers don't encounter blacks in equal numbers, basically. It depends on the racial stats of the area. So if it's a mostly black area, it's mostly black cops that are going to be killing black people. But the problem remains that there's a disproportionate amount of black unarmed men dying at the hands of cops. And all of this doesn't explain why this guy was killed. But I think it kind of does extinguish the narrative that blacks are being hunted in the streets and are in danger when they go outside on a daily basis. And I'm not saying that there isn't racism in the police force and stuff, but it's not as systemic as what people say it is. The stats just do not say that. There is no stats saying, 80% of blacks are killed by whites. It's not like that. It's mostly blacks killing blacks. So what pisses me off about this is there's actually something really, really relevant here worth researching, and we need to look at that. We need to look at racism. We need to look at all these things. But the left are just politicizing it for their own advantage. They're exploiting this poor guy's death when actually everyone agrees this is wrong and we should be kind of coming together to fix the problem. And the narrative the left wants to push is that all blacks are victims and blacks need the left's help. Just like in California and New York, where Democrat governors preside over a huge amount of murdered blacks. So look, I had to do it. I looked into the hellhole that is a Google search. And the first thing that came up regarding this, if you're a white person wondering what to do during the George Floyd protests, I have some advice. Fuck off. What does me being white have to do with your special advice? How does that change? Like, how do I think different because of my accident of birth? So it's like, oh God, they're saying it's a racist killing and they're trying to justify it and comment on it with racist articles like this. Fuck off. Me being white's got nothing to do with this. Is because of I'm white, do I think a certain way? Is that how you see the world? Because if you do, well, you're a far leftist and you love intersectional politics, and that's actually quite evil, I think. So that article says the reaction to protests in Minnesota and New York demanding an end to police brutality after the killing of George Floyd shows that black Americans are facing two epidemics, COVID-19 and racist violence. See, that's just what I said. So, like, blacks, it's an epidemic of racist violence. It's fucking everywhere. Is it really? Because the stats just don't show that. And the newspapers cannot wait to use this dead guy as an excuse to bring out their narrative in order to get votes and basically promote their political agenda. And the media is real scum. It really fucking is. And it all just detracts from the real issue. So this is just garbage, isn't it? it's such a miserable philosophy as well, and it's a magnet for people who feel sorry for themselves and who want a virtue signal. And just in the end, everyone hates each other and they can't agree, on Twitter at least. So, yeah. And then you've got people, professional victims coming out who are making millions off this. Kaepernick, that failed NFL flop. He was kneeling on TV during the national anthem at Turncoat. And before I went on his Twitter, I already knew he was talking shit. He's saying outrageous shit on Twitter, but he can say it. I wouldn't want to censor him, right? But that's okay because he's on the left. You bet your ass if this guy was on the right, he'd be censored right now, just like Trump. So this guy tweeted out, this guy's like made millions off being shit at football and just exploiting the victim narrative. He's like the poster boy for the Marxist oppressed, this billionaire, this multi-millionaire black footballer who got a Nike deal when he can't even get into a team because he's so shit, just because he's a race baiter and a victim, pro-victim. He said, when civility leads to death, revolting is the only logical reaction. So people are looting stores and crushing businesses and burning buildings. And he's saying, that's a good thing. And while this guy's living in his ivory tower free from this shit, he says, the cries for peace will rain down. And when they do, they will land on deaf ears because your violence has brought this resistance. What? Oh my God. So people are going out and looting, and the guy's saying it's justified because of the violence from Donald Trump. The violence from what? So the action of one cop is being attributed to Donald Trump, the entire White House, and anyone who voted for them. So we go back to this narrative from Hillary Clinton during the run-up to the 2016 election, which is why she lost, I think. The turning point was when she called all people who like Donald Trump deplorables. And it's the popular tactic, the straw man, where they just want to shut you down without any logical argument, making any effort at all, and just say, if you like Donald Trump, you're a racist, misogynist, the most evil thing I can think of. And Colin Kaepernick does it to a T here. He attributes the actions of one cop to all of them. So if that isn't prejudice, I don't know what is. So he's obviously looked at the cop and he's white, and he's like, he's fucking white cunts, Donald Trump, white cunts, cake. It's the people on the left are just as racist as the people on the right. They just kind of express it in different ways. He said, we have to fight back. This goes back to Marxism again, a violent revolution. And this guy, you wouldn't want him in the trenches during a violent revolution. He can't even run the length of a fucking football field, let alone across a battlefield. So he also says, Colin Kaepernick offers to pay for lawyers for people protesting in Minneapolis. So the people burning down the stores and smashing shit, he's going to give them money. So he wants the whole of America to descend into chaos. This is what Democrats have wanted all along. It's just to completely throw democracy away, just remove Donald Trump forcibly from office, like one of those shithole countries that they would never want to live in. This guy's actually rooting for that. He's rooting for civil unrest and chaos. He wants to tear down the system that has allowed him to become a multi-millionaire footballer for doing fucking jack shit, and everyone's kissing his ass for being a twat. He says, in fighting for liberation, there's always retaliation. We must protect our freedom fighters. We started a legal defense initiative to give legal representation to freedom fighters. Just go and look it up online. People smashing and looting shit. Freedom fighters, my fucking ass. So, these uneducated professional victims, unaffected by any of this stuff they claim takes place all the time, are telling the little people what to do. And they're saying America is racist and systemic racism is everywhere. And that same guy, as I said, Nike paid him millions for an ad campaign while he was out of work because he's so bad at football. He actually retweeted a picture of a police station in flames. And his tweets are allowed up. He's encouraging people to burn shit. Like, arson is a crime. And Trump says mail-in ballots are bad, and that gets said. What is going on here? How can you even argue this, that Twitter's censoring or not censoring conservative voices? It is. And these people, oh man, so these tweets are basically glorified, therefore. And what kind of rational human being nods in approval at this? Like, yeah, man, retweet that picture of that building burning. That's really fucking good. These people who are shouting about it and complaining about it on Twitter, like Colin Kaepernick, they profit from it the most, and they get to look good while they do it. They get to look like morally sound people, and that fills their existential vacuum. it is what it is. Michael Moore, that political commentator and documentary maker, chipped in on this as well. He's going the Marxist route about tear down the system with bloody revolution. Listen to this fucking shit. So I read this on the Daily Wire, and he said, amid the chaos Thursday night, Moore cheered on the good citizens for burning down the evil police precinct. The same police that will save your fucking ass from those same looters. And he demanded that all police should go home. That definitely this guy will be calling the police immediately when he hears a dog bark outside his home or a fox or something. And he suggested that race should determine who is allowed in the police department. Like, oh man, can you imagine a world where our value is based on our skin color? I mean, I remember Hitler trying that. It didn't really work out that well. Good citizens burning down the evil police precinct in MN after all police were out, safe. Moore tweeted Thursday night, all police should go home, no violence please. Police HQ must be demolished by the city tomorrow as a show of contrition to Black America. Rebuild PD with decent people, aka people of color. Oh, you're such a nice fat white guy. You love black people, don't you, Michael Moore? You're such a lovely guy. Why don't you give all your money to black people then? Fucking hell. I bet you he wouldn't. It's mad, isn't it? It's mad, isn't it, how people use this to make themselves look like good people. And then this article continues on the Daily Wire. It says Moore followed that post up by describing the riots as liberating Minnesota. In response to a lockdown-themed tweet by Trump declaring liberate Minnesota, Moore wrote, yes, Mr. President, it's happening. You've inspired so many. So where the fuck is he? If you're so up for this revolution, why don't you go down there and fight it? Oh, the white man telling the black guys to go put their lives in danger and loot on your behalf? Surprise to fucking surprise. So look, people ask why Marxism is evil. Why do I keep mentioning this Marxist stuff? I mean, look, people are literally celebrating burning their city. Who wants this? Who wants this? That is Marxist philosophy. Tear it all down, burn it down violently with force. The working classes rise up. They will happily paint their enemy as Hitler incarnate and a white supremacist to forcefully remove him from office, like they tried to do with Obamagate, Russiagate, Ukrainegate, all of that shit. This is just part of the same narrative. You know, Trump is evil, he's Hitler. We need to tear down the city and rip him out of the White House. Fuck democracy. And you're telling me these aren't the dangerous people? You're telling me these aren't the radicals? You're telling me these people aren't the main existential threat to America right now? These rioters do not give a shit about this dead black man. They just want a free fucking TV. You don't try to mourn someone's death by nicking a fucking TV and nicking shit from Target. What the fuck, dudes? This is such bullshit. Give me a break. The thieves just use this, dead guys, you know, passing as an excuse to nick shit, to steal shit. And well done, lefties, for stoking this up. Well done for stoking this up. Like, even Lil Wayne came out and kind of stuck up for the cops today. But, I mean, fuck. Let's go back to Twitter, right? Twitter, the fact-check source extraordinaire, who we're all going to trust. What's trending on the news of Twitter? Is it going to be some impartial stuff, or is it going to tell me what to think? Oh, let's have a look. Can't wait to see. Taylor Swift says Trump is stoking the fires of white supremacy. This gets really, really tiring. I swear, in the 90s, no one mentioned any of this shit. Like, every cartoon had a black guy in it and a white guy, and there's like black video game characters and white video game characters, and it was cool. And white people loved black culture, man. Hip-hop was so cool. And it's kind of different because black people wore different clothes and they made different music and they had a different kind of vibe. And we liked it. We thought, wow, this is great. Some of the best entertainment from the 90s came from hip-hop. That was a golden era of hip-hop. And the comedians as well. And where is this all gone? Where's all this goodwill gone? Now it's like, we have to think all the time about black people. They need special treatment and white people don't. And women... this intersectional politics is just tearing us apart. And that's leftist philosophy. And then, I mean, if you look at the bottom of this tweet, this is a bit random. Look, politics is everywhere. Animal Crossing isn't just a game, it's a political platform. Fuck off! Fuck off! Seriously, can I play a video game without you ramming this political shit up my ass? Stop it. Stop it. Fuck's sake. We're only just getting started, people. And I'm sweating like a pig in my studio. So then I'm looking at some of the tweets underneath what Donald Trump's written, and it's just so racially divided. So look what we've got here. Black Lives Matter. And Black Lives Matter has a fucking official custom emoji on Twitter. So this is such a baited kind of movement. Black Lives Matter. So if you criticize it at all, are you saying black lives don't matter? No, I will not. Who thinks that black lives don't matter? Who have you ever met that thinks, well, black people kind of don't matter as much? Nobody fucking thinks that. And all this does is divide people further. And people get cussed down for saying all lives matter. Hey, look, nobody wants to see anyone die. How about that? And that's it. And stop fucking dividing it along race. Like making black people like a currency, or they're worth this much, or they need this. They don't need that special treatment. They're capable. They're not fucking children. Stop treating them like pawns on a fucking chessboard. You can manipulate and get to do your bidding with all these fucking broken down slogans and shit. It's so oversimplified, and frankly, it's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. But the Twitter comments don't really reflect the real life as we know it, but I have met some people who do think like that. It's a bit disturbing. So Jim, I told you about Twitter's fact checking. I'm going to show you what it looks like when they do the fact checking. It's so cringy. It's very infantile. So they got one on COVID-19. This is changing the subject a little bit, but they said, look, COVID-19, the C word, US community transmission likely began early as late January, CDC says. And then they do a little summary, Twitter summary, and then they have these little emojis. Look, they got little Earth symbol updates. US President Trump withdraws funding of WHO. Guess what? He's completely left WHO now. Today they just announced that he's left WHO. Good riddance. Those fucking commie cunts in the pockets of China. Then they say, positivity, Twitter, it's like the kitty, the positivity. They got the positivity emoji. What do they say? How am I going to be positive today? They said, positivity, Tokyo says thank you to healthcare workers. Yay! You want these people to give you your news? Are you a retard? And then they got the fact check with the green tick emoji. This must be true. Fact check, misinformation, debunk. Yeah, because Twitter's going to tell me what's real and what's not. It's actually quite funny when you look. You have to laugh at it. You have to laugh because otherwise you're going to cry. So, yeah, this is a joke. You've already seen the bias and the alignment of the Twitter stuff. I've already showed you that. And it's been like this since 2016. So I remember I got invited to a YouTube meeting in Tokyo in the Mori Tower. It's this huge tower. It looks like something from Gotham City. And I remember going in there, and as soon as I walked into the lobby, I knew it had some like crazy liberal bent, and everyone was saying Trump this, Trump that. We sat down. Within 30 seconds, Trump had just won the election. The YouTube speaker goes, well, this is interesting times, isn't it? And everyone's like, ha ha ha. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I could be a Trump supporter and I could be a conservative. And right off the bat, you've just completely cut me off from the whole meeting. And that's what these people do. They want to cut you off. They want to cut the umbilical cord off the conservative baby. They want to get rid of you before you even come to life. They want to extinguish you. They want to censor you. Then they'll gaslight you. If you call out against it and you say you're censoring me, then they say it's dangerous. Now you're trying to censor us. It's nonsense. It's psychobabble. It's disingenuous. It's hypocritical. It's pathetic. And I remember that meeting. So all these big tech companies are super biased, and so fuck off with your fact checking shit. And my mate was talking. We have similar views, and he said to me this. I'm going to read what he said regarding the death of this poor guy. He said, "What happened is awful, but while everyone is focused on a white cop killing an unarmed black man, they're ignoring the most fundamental question: why do cops in the US kill so many unarmed citizens in the first place? The cops in the US literally shoot thousands of people every year, far more than any other developed country outside of a war zone. They kill plenty of unarmed white people as well, but it scarcely makes headlines because that doesn't fit the mainstream narrative of blacks always being the victims of racist abuse from whites. The fact is, the police in the US have become an enemy of all citizens. I'm terrified of cops in the US and just want to stay the hell away from them as much as possible." Now, I've got a video of this white guy in a hallway and a cop aiming a gun, and the guy's putting his hands up and he's saying, "Don't shoot, don't shoot." He's doing everything the cop tells him to do. The cop is threatening him relentlessly, and the cop says, "Crawl towards me," and he crawls towards him, fucking executes him. I'm not going to show you that video, but it happens to all different types of people. As we've established, though, it does happen to blacks more. That is a fact. Why is that happening? It could well be racism. We have to look at it. But going from this one isolated incident and saying that's a yardstick for all cases of white on black violence or white on black killings in relation to cops and criminals is just, you're overreaching. And once you start doing that, you start going this narrative of the leftist media, when really we should just be looking at the facts and what's going on. And if this is a racist attack, it's far worse, and the guy should be punished accordingly. Yeah, so getting quite serious on today's show, aren't we now? And people want this narrative to be true. So I think, is this the same guy who was killed? Anyway, I think this is the same guy. Regardless, there is this tweet, and it was put out of this cop who killed a black guy, and then there's another picture on Twitter of allegedly the cop wearing a hat saying make white great again, so he's a racist. And then Ice Cube, who's a bit of a social justice warrior, he tweeted that, and he said, "A wolf in wolf's clothing, the demons are among us, fight the cowards." It's amazing how like mature people like Ice Cube are so brainwashed by this narrative that like white people are all out to get you. And we have to fight. We've got to be like a Marxist. We've got to overthrow. We've got to have the violent revolution, man. And you see this all the time. Someone puts this political meme on Twitter and everyone retweets it and it becomes gospel. And it turns out this guy in the Make White Great Again hat is not actually the cop that killed the black guy in the first place. But that doesn't stop loads of people in the comments saying this is disgusting. This is what America's become. This is what America's all about. Don't believe me? Look at the comment underneath this false picture of the cop who killed the guy and then a cop wearing a Make White Great Again hat, trying to push the narrative that all cops are racist and these killings are 100% all racist, even though it hasn't yet been proved as a racist killing. The guy underneath it says, "This is what Donald Trump has brought to the table." Again, Colin Kaepernick's doing it. Donald Trump, white people, white police, everyone who voted for Donald Trump, they're all scum, remove him from the White House. This is not going to work. This is not going to fucking work. This is not democratic at all. And then, okay, so look at this tweet. Underneath this false meme claiming that this cop was racist when it is actually a different guy. Someone said, "Those red hats really are the new white hood, sad." So it's just become trendy. The mainstream media and people like Twitter have made it okay to just paint anyone who's not a liberal as a racist and supporting black deaths. It's crazy, crazy shit. We're living in cloud cuckoo land. And I just wish we'd fucking wake up and come down from there at some point rather soon. So that's the main reason the media whip up this narrative. They use some poor dead dude and exploit him to push their political shite. And honestly, I think the media want to make black people angry, so they storm the White House and burn down everything and the city until the president leaves. That they would love black people to carry out their wishes for them. And again, this is pure Marxism, violent, bloody revolution. Who wants this shit? Once again, who actually wants this shit? Do you want to see these people running your country? We need to look at the facts, people, and let's wait until the facts come out before we say everyone's a fucking racist in America. And that is the crux of the left-wing presidential campaign. Whew! So that was the first bit of the Johnny Massacre show out of the way. I feel like we're only just getting started. I don't know how I'm going to get through this without a fan. I'm sweating my fucking ass off, seriously, but I'll do my best. So, designer Louis Vuitton face masks. Let's break up the political ranting with... Look, it was only a matter of time before someone made a mask to protect you from corona that was designer. And actually, you wouldn't catch me dead wearing any Louis Vuitton because it just looks like so common. It looks so common. Everyone fucking wears that shit. And there's loads of fakes of it. And I don't even like the pattern. And I like nice brands, but the logo's hidden. A bit more underground. But I've got to say, the Louis Vuitton face mask does look pretty good. Have a look at this. That's all right. Look, that's gangster. I love these kind of ventilation holes. And it kind of looks like a bit like what Deadpool wears. Look, someone's made a Darth Vader one. That's fucking amazing. So it was only a matter of time. Look, and the Jason Voorhees one. This is amazing. It was only a matter of time before the West kind of took the concept of the sanitary mask and added their little twist and panache to it. And look, we've got it right here. Would you wear this? I think I wouldn't wear it just because it's got the Louis V logo. But if it didn't have that logo on, if it was just black, then I'd probably fuck with that. I'd probably be fucking with that. So I just found that quite amusing. And in Japan, we've had masks for ages, and I'm surprised we haven't gone harder with the masks. Look, don't get me wrong, you can get some weird Japanese masks and shit, but the West is going to town with this. So it'll be interesting to see where the creative designs of the masks go next. Now, we're going back to politics. So contact tracing. What is contact tracing? So this has been something that's been pissing me off for a little while. So I want to have a rant about this before we get on to sexier news about video games and shit and PlayStation. So contact tracing is something that has just come to the UK. So what it is, it's an app on your phone and it tracks where you go, and it basically can monitor where COVID C-word outbreaks are. So if people with COVID have come into contact with someone else with it, the app knows because it's been monitoring where you've walked. So this opens a can of fucking worms in relation to privacy and personal security. In order to get me to upload a contact tracing app onto my phone, you would have to pry the dead knuckles from my hands, a la Roy Batty to Rick Deckard in the Blade Runner movie. It ain't gonna happen, motherfucker. So here's the crazy thing. If you don't do this contact tracing monitoring app shit in the UK, apparently you could be penalized. So you're gonna be forced to be surveilled all the fucking time. The Daily Mail ran an article on this right in the beginning, and I just want to have a little look at it because I think it's going to be pretty interesting. And luckily we don't actually seem to have anything like that in Japan yet, but if we do, I will not be doing it. So it was unveiled by Health Secretary Matt Hancock, and this is a controversial thing. He said it's the civic duty of the public to adhere to the new rules, whatever that fucking means. Fuck off. I don't want to sign up for that shit. However, it's been launched without its NHS contact tracing app centerpiece, promoting concerns that the new technology, the government could struggle. Prompting concerns that without the new technology, the government could struggle to tackle the spread of the disease. So look, the UK can't fucking do anything. They can't leave Europe. They can't launch this tracing system. So let me explain what it is properly. What is the NHS test and trace system? The NHS test and trace system will see anyone who develops COVID-associated symptoms told to self-isolate and get tested. The close contacts of those who are found to be positive for the disease will then be told to quarantine for 14 days, even if they test negative and are not sick. Boris Johnson's government has hired an enormous army of 50,000 people who will attempt to make this huge undertaking possible. So probably a few brown shirts that will kick down your door when you haven't downloaded the contact tracing app. Around 25,000 are contact tracers who will contact people who return positive coronavirus tests to grill them on their movements and their known associates. So the Daily Mail I think it's a right-wing paper, and so they have a bias against this shit because they don't want to, they don't want big government like lefties do, and that's what they use the vocabulary. Grill, they're going to grill you. So we have to expose the right-wing media as well when they are taking the piss a bit. But I'm with the Daily Mail on this. I don't like the sound of this at all. The idea is to build a picture of who they've come into contact with, and so who might be at risk of A, becoming ill, and B, passing it on to more people. So I think there's a part where it talks about the repercussions of not downloading this app at some point. Although maybe it's not in this article. I do have another article on this that actually goes into the potential penalties of not downloading this thing. What about in your country? I know a lot of people here watching in America. Is there going to be anything like this in America? I haven't seen much about it because apparently this happened quite a lot in Korea. If you could leave your comments in the box below with any info regarding contact tracing, I would appreciate it because it sounds rather Orwellian to me and I'm about to rant about it big time. So, yeah, anyways, I can't find it, but there is this whole kind of controversy now about if you don't download the app, are you going to be punished and are you going to be penalized? Now, one of the reasons I quite like Donald Trump is because he says shit like this. Warrantless surveillance of Americans is wrong. Exactly. We're being surveilled too much as it is. I don't know if he'll really go through with that. I mean, his administration is probably part of the problem. I don't see any scaling back of any surveillance, but that's at least the kind of shit I want to hear. So the really, really scary thing about this contact tracing is the similarities it has to the social currency system in China. So communist countries like China are trying to make rules impossible to break with cameras everywhere, AI on every fucking lamppost. And they monitor people in a multitude of ways. And it includes smartphone app registration and AI tech. So this was before the fucking contact tracing. China have a social currency system, and if you're a bad person, you can't get on the fucking train. You can't get on the fucking plane. That's like living in a movie about communist rule. It sounds like worse than death. Thank you very much. And that system is all digital, their social currency system. And now I think contact tracing is the perfect excuse to embellish that evil philosophy. Just like the coronavirus is the perfect excuse to squash the Hong Kong riots, right? You can always use a crisis to your benefit. Never let a crisis go to waste. And so that's why I am very skeptical about contact tracing. On the subject of China, without digressing too much from contact tracing, the more I think about it, the more it feels like China fucking made this disease on purpose, because China just approved a contentious national security legislation for Hong Kong, which basically means they've taken over Hong Kong. I don't know the politics of this. How have we let this happen? How the fuck have England given Hong Kong back to China and trusted China? At every turn, they're fucking us. They're fucking the world's freedoms. And they're controlling movie companies who censor their movies for China. They control a lot of the big tech companies. Google were kind of developing systems for China before they got caught out. And when we kowtow and pander to them, I mean, all of our medicine supplies dependent on these commie motherfuckers, this Chinese Communist Party who are fucking over the Chinese people. Why are we still doing so much business with them? And the coronavirus is so convenient for them for these Hong Kong riots, because the last time they rioted quite recently, they basically smashed them and said it's illegal to come outside during the coronavirus. And now they've just passed this bill, which is very, very disturbing. And this country pioneered the model for the contact tracing shit that you're going to have to download on your phone in England. It's the same kind of philosophy. It's something on your phone that's tracking where you go, and you won't be able to use a plane if you test positive with that shit, much like the social currency system in China. It's a path we do not want to go down, trust me. And under this new legislation, this national security legislation, offenders in Hong Kong will be sent to China for trial. If China could, they would also send Americans, Europeans, and you to China to face trial, gulags, and punishment for criticism of the communist regime. And you want to do some contact tracing, just like Commie China. As I said, Disney and left-wing companies censor their movies for these countries. Facebook and Google pander to them. We put the world's medicine supply in their hands. People who would throw you and your family in a jail for your beliefs are basically pioneering contact tracing that other people are adopting. And the West is the evil one. I always hear how America's so bad and England's so bad. No, they're fucking not. They are the fucking best, especially America. And China should be kissing our ass right now for everything, and not the other way around. Just because there's cheap labor in China and there's a buck to be made over there doesn't mean we should bend over for those communist motherfuckers, because they would throw you in a jail in a heartbeat. And they will undoubtedly use contact tracing to monitor Hong Kongers. Undoubtedly. Just like the UK is forcing contact tracing now. So I'd rather be dead than live in this world, thank you very much, and have that shit. But guess what? If I want to see my family again and go back from Japan to England, I might need the contact tracing app. So social currency for everyone, yay! You see where this could go, right? You see the path this is kind of going down. You know, if you miss a tax payment, you won't be able to travel. Or if you say a bad word, hate speech, because your phone can monitor fucking everything you say. If you say women can't change their biological sex, for example, you could be punished. Do you really want to go down this route? Is it really worth it? I'd rather get coronavirus. I'd rather fucking get it. And who are you to tell me I can get it or not? It's my fucking body. Let me do what I want. Oh, my goodness. I've got a YouTube link here. Dare I click on it to see what it is? It might be something enlightening, but it could be something horrific at the same time. I've got a mountain of fucking links Okay, no, we probably are going to watch this. So if you want to go the route of contact tracing and want to go down the route of communist China, then it's like we're going to be living in the Demolition Man movie. So have a look at this. This is the world you're going to be in if we contact tracing is adopted en masse and we end up with a social currency system.
Sanctimonious asshole.
Melina Huxley, you are fined 1/2 credit for
As a pistol.
Look, I don't need a history lesson. Come on, Hal. Where the goddamn guns?
You are fined 1 credit for a violation of the verbal morality statute.
What? Fuck you.
Your repeated violation of the verbal morality statute.
Fuckers are fast, too.
You are fined 1.
Smoking is not good for you, and has been deemed that anything not good for you is bad, hence illegal. Alcohol, caffeine, contact sports, meat.
Are you shitting me?
John Spartan, you are fined.
Do you want to live in a world like this? Because really, that's where we're going. And if the lefties get into power, we're probably going to end up there. I really think we will end up with something like this in some Orwellian nightmare. Because if you read 1984, it's so fucking accurate to what's going on right now. It's terrifying. I might start reading passages from that book. So, don't tell me that I'm paranoid and shit for thinking this, because as far as I'm concerned, if you gaslight me and call me paranoid about this, you just follow rules like a bitch. And really, how about I impose my beliefs and rules on you? You should just do what I say. Like, who's the idiot here? The guy saying, just let the government control you, or the guy saying, let the government alone, so let the government leave you alone so you can be free? Like, only people trapped in a 9-to-5 rat race trying to normalize their own misery would say anything like that and say that I'm paranoid. Some people have zero empathy, I mean, where is the argument? We just want to be free, right? What's wrong with that? What the fuck is wrong with that? Anyone who says me not wanting to be monitored by government 24/7 is experiencing cognitive dissonance. So, I mean, this is already happening now. Seriously. So, for example, Airbnb already have a social currency system. So if you go on there, this is the kind of shit that you are greeted with, right? This is what Airbnb are looking for. So look, they've got some guy wearing lipstick who's cross-dressing. So they're obsessed. The people on the left, especially in California, they're obsessed with victims, and they see, as we've already discussed, they see black people as perennial victims, and especially if they're gay or whatever. So they love to kind of promote these people on their websites and use them to make themselves look like good people and push their diversity and inclusion narrative, and then censor all hate speech, which is anything they disagree with politically. Those people, Airbnb, if you were to say if they knew that you said you think women cannot change their biological sex to men, to male, and vice versa, they will ban you from using Airbnb and you can never use it again. Now, imagine a world one day when it's all Airbnb and hotels are gone. That means you won't be able to stay in a hotel ever again. This is literally happening right now. I know people who this has happened to. So let me read you the Airbnb rules on their diversity and inclusion mumbo jumbo. They say specific guidance for hosts outside the... Basically, they say that you can't discriminate on sex, gender, like race, any of that stuff. But this is how hypocritical they are. Hosts outside the United States and European Union, some countries or communities may allow or even require people to make accommodation distinctions based on, for example, marital status, national origin, gender or sexual orientation, in violation of our general non-discrimination philosophy. In these cases, we do not require hosts to violate local laws, nor to accept guests that could expose the host to a real and demonstrable risk of arrest or physical harm to their persons or property. Hosts who live in such areas should set out any such restriction on their ability to host particular guests in their listing. So basically, just like all these movie companies, these companies try to act really virtuous and say, I'm for the minorities, I'm for gays. But if you're in Saudi Arabia, where they're going to kill you for being gay, that's all right if you want to use our service. You cannot trust these fuckers. So it's like any tyrannical system. The people at the top, they pretend to be the gods and they do everything right, but actually as long as there's money involved, they break all the rules themselves. And there's a social currency for Airbnb. There's social currency for PayPal. Some people can't use banks. Google and YouTube have a social currency. If you say certain things again, like men can't become women and women can't become men, you can get banned forever. So already this social currency system's in play. Where do you think this is going to go if a left-wing government gets into power with all this intersectional politics and shit, and it melds with the kind of arms of the government like Facebook, Twitter and stuff, and Google that control all the information, you're going to end up with a social currency system, I'm telling you. And if that happens, I'm moving to a fucking desert island, mate. It's true, right? Look at this tweet by Brendan Carr. The Verge, even The Verge admits it. YouTube confirms it's accidentally been deleting comments containing 2 phrases that insult China's Communist Party. Stop pandering to China, for fuck's sake. Seriously. Stop it. So, anyways, yeah, contact tracing, China, social currency. It's all kind of related as far as I can see, and it's all quite concerning. So, right, that was quite intense. I think all the political stuff is kind of out of the way now. I'm getting used to my sweatiness. I've been chatting for an hour and a half. So now I'm going to review a movie called Free Solo. So Free Solo is a movie about a rock climber. It's about a guy whose name is Alex Honnold, and it won an Oscar, whatever that fucking means. And it's just about this guy wanting to climb a cliff called El Capitan, or El Cap for short, as he calls it. No one has free soloed it before. What does free solo mean? It means climb something without a rope. It's like 3,000 feet high and takes about 4 hours to climb. A regular person can take 24 hours to climb or more. And it's extremely dangerous. And it's so dangerous that when 2 people climbed it with ropes, Obama went and visited them and shook their hands and shit. So it's a big deal. But this guy did it without a rope. And it's a great documentary. It's not a 5 out of 5 blow your mind documentary, but it moved me and it inspired me and it enriched my life and kind of changed my thinking a bit. You should definitely watch this. It's called Free Solo. Alex Honnold is a really interesting character. And what's also interesting is seeing how people react to him. Everyone thinks, you're crazy, you're a psycho. But he's very relaxed about what he does. He's not afraid of death. Very interesting guy. And the documentary really works because it kind of has a typical story arc. So there's an inciting incident, which means something happens and his life will never be the same. So at school, no one accepts him. So he goes off alone, and instead he has to develop some other way, not socially. So he starts climbing shit. And so life will never be the same again from that point. And then there's a point where it's like the dark night of the soul, and it literally happens at night, which is the point where the character gets fucked and you think he's dead and out, and then he comes back to win in the end. So he tries to climb the mountain, then he gives up, and then he comes back to do it at the end. So a classical story arc, and like any classic story arc and character arc, there are lots of characters around the protagonist. So all of the people filming him are his friends. So that adds an extra layer of tension to the movie, because the friends don't want to see him die. And he doesn't want to, Alex Honnold, the climber, doesn't want his friends to see him die, although he's not really afraid of death. So that's just a really interesting, kind of unusual way of thinking. Most people just don't want to die because they're afraid of death, but his main concern of death isn't death itself, it's his friends seeing him die, which is really weird. So you got all the characters, and they want to get the best shot possible. And the better shot possible, the more money they're going to make and the more awesome it's going to be. But some points, if they get too close, they can put him off and he could fall and die. So there's a lot of stakes here for Alex and for his friends and for his girlfriend. So I watched this with my ex-girlfriend, and my ex-girlfriend said Alex's girlfriend is a bit of a bitch. She tells Alex, her boyfriend, before he climbs, I had a dream last night and you fell and died in it. So she's a bit sketchy. She's well fit though. Is she really an obstacle, or does she keep him together? It's not really clear in this film. They actually are getting married now, I think. I love this guy because he follows his dreams, and I'm someone who follows my dreams to the extreme as well. This guy lives in a van. He's got a net worth of about 1.5 million. He lives in a fucking van. I live in my studio. My feet touch my equipment. If there's an earthquake, this will fall on me and die. And I just want to be surrounded by it. And to other people, it looks weird. But to me, it's just, I love it. I wouldn't rather do anything else. And Alex is kind of like that, but more extreme, so I really related to him. And I related to a lot of things. Everything else is peripheral. The only thing is climbing. For me, the only thing is making music, rapping, and DJing. And so when he cooks food, he just gets a pot and eats it like a caveman out of a pot. And I do that as well. I don't need a fucking plate. It's like a function. I just get it done, mate. And I really related to him, and I felt not so alone after watching this movie. And it really got me interested in what he's going to do next. So I started to research other mountains. And apparently K2 is the most dangerous mountain ever. It takes 2 weeks to travel there once you land in Pakistan. It's on the border of Pakistan and China. K2 is a different ballgame. It's all full of snow and ice. And So I'm learning about all these other mountains and why they're dangerous, you know, because boys like dangerous shit, right? And K2 is really awesome. I went down the YouTube rabbit hole and like, holy shit, like K2, near the top, there's something called the bottleneck, which is basically, it's a near vertical slope, but it's kind of like that. You can't get out basically. And above it is a serac. I think it's pronounced serac. And a serac is, imagine a tsunami of ice. Like imagine a tsunami that freezes and it's hanging over you, and it's monstrous. Huge kind of plane-sized blocks of ice will dislodge and hurtle down the mountain at 1,000,000 miles per hour and liquidate you on the way. Like this shit can happen all the time. There's landslides, there's avalanches and shit. And I went down that YouTube rabbit hole and looking at all this stuff, and there's all these videos. There's a famous story about a 2008 expedition, I think, where 30 climbers went out and only 11 died, I think. And that happens all the time. You read any story about K2 or watch any video and they say, oh, the guy we saw earlier, he died later that day. It's a normal thing. 1 in 4 die when they climb K2. And there's other videos. And I really understand now how people die when they fall off a snowy mountain. So even on the bottleneck on K2, it's like this. But I thought, well, it's not a vertical slope. So what's so bad? Here's the thing. It's snow, right? If you slip on that fucking snow, your momentum will build instantly. If you don't find a way to stop yourself, i.e. use your rope, within 5 seconds, you will have picked up so much momentum, you'll be hurtling down the hill like a ragdoll, wheelbarrowing and breaking every bone in your body at about 200 miles per hour. It's almost worse than falling down a vertical cliff, because vertical, you know you're done, it's just like blam. But if it's like that, you kind of feel you could grab onto something, and it feels more wasteful and ironic. So there's plenty of other mountains. Everest is up there as well. There's the documentary editing style was really cool. That affected my own editing style a bit. I like the way they used the text and just edited it generally. It's really nice. So yeah, it's a movie that encourages you to follow your dreams. So if you follow your dreams and you make a lot of sacrifices, I recommend that you watch the movie known as Free Solo, starring Alex Honnold, I believe his name is. So finally for today, PS5 games reveal. So fuck, man, we started off so serious. The PS5, right, is fucking coming out. There's going to be a games reveal in, I think it's in July. Sony released a little promotional video. So, steady. Fuck, man, my computer's like, fuck, it's so slow right now. So, let's have a look at this little teaser. This should wet the whistle, mate, for the PlayStation 5. It shows the controller with lots of fancy camera angles, which I really like. Let's have a look. That looks sexy. 4th of June. So that's not really, there's not much going on there at all. But you're going to see some games within about a week. So we're going to find out some new PlayStation 5 games. Hopefully there'll be some original titles. It's all starting to move now. It's nearly, we're halfway through the year. And before the end of the year, we're going to have a new generation of consoles. And I just can't fucking wait. And that pad looks really, really sexy, don't you think? So, right. I mean, we're kind of coming towards the end of the show. I collect so many random tweets that I can't make a show around them all. So I just want to read you. I've been fucking binging on Twitter. I'm getting into it, man. For better or worse, probably for worse. But I'm just going to read you some of the random tweets. So, right, Donald Trump. We're acting as a police force, not the fighting force that we are in Afghanistan. After 19 years, it's time for them to for them to police their own country, bring our soldiers back home, but closely watch what is going on, blah, 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 and strike with the thunder like never before if necessary. I just love, man, Trump is fucking nuts, man. He's so hardcore. He's really like relishing just murdering people with missiles striking like thunder. Have you ever seen someone like this in the White House? And then underneath, you've got John Boyega, that guy from Star Wars, who said, I really fucking hate racists. I mean, again, everyone's racist. This is a narrative. It's so divisive. So then you're going to have all these people, yeah, fuck this guy. He's a fuck. Like, what good is that going to make? And of course, he gets to look like a good guy, John Boyega, the turncoat stormtrooper, by saying he hates racists. Oh, because, who doesn't hate racists? Who doesn't? These celebrities filling that existential vacuum that bores into their wealthy souls like oil wells. What other tweets we got? Yeah, so... Oh, my fucking God. So, Kathy Griffin, I told you about that ginger comedian. She said... Kathy Griffin sparks anger for saying Trump should be given syringe with nothing but air inside it. Fuck Trump. Well, you're such a good person because Trump's Hitler, right? So when you say fuck Trump, that makes you look good. And then all your liberal buddies in your echo chamber go, yay, Kathy, well, good. Fucking look in the mirror, darling. Then, oh man. So there was a study recently about 3 Concordia researchers who collaborated to engage indigenous knowledges in the study of physics. So Dr. Jordan Peterson retweeted that and he said, if this isn't the stupidest thing I've ever seen, it's certainly in the top 10. I mean, indigenous people did rain dances and shit. Modern scientists like Elon Musk shot people into space. I don't see why you'd want to put that into modern science. It doesn't make any sense to me, even though I'm not a scientist. The C word, apparently its fatality rate is below 0.3%, and we shut down the global economy for this. Oh, but now we need contact tracing, and there's loads of new laws that are really heavy that are probably never going to be repealed because people have just rolled over and taken it like a bitch. I see what's going on here. What other tweets do we have here? These are all political, and I don't really want to delve into the political stuff. There's something on China. China's going hardcore, man. We talked a lot about China. They're so evil. It says here, China says military force an option to stop Taiwan's fight for independence. Fuck off, China. Seriously, fuck off. And then you've got Justin Trudeau, that Canadian pussy, who said on Wednesday he'll not push for Taiwan to have status at the World Health Organization. You fucking hypocritical cunt. You're the one who says open borders and the sisters upstairs in the mosque when you won't even protect Taiwan from communist invaders, literally, who are thinking about going into their country and killing them to claim the country as their own. You fucking coward. These pussy. You never want these people in the trenches next to you. Awful. And then James Woods on Twitter has made a point that NYC bans the word alien in laws, documents, opts for non-citizen because it's offensive. Like these liberal cities like New York and LA, they're just going crackers, man. What is going on over there? You know, apparently LA was Republican up until 1990 and Bill Clinton. Before that, it was Republican. Can you believe that? It was Republican, apparently. Unbelievable. So, I think it's time to talk about my life. Now, on Airbnb, they've got this thing where you can submit an online experience. So, I'm not a conservative, actually. I think I was always a liberal. But then liberals went so mad, I'm not a liberal anymore. But I'm not a conservative. I don't believe in God. And although I'm spiritual in weird sort of ways, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in any meaning. I'm a nihilist. I'm very much an individual though. But I just think, you know, a lot of conservative thought, it just doesn't really match for me. But I thought I'll troll Airbnb a bit because they're such a liberal company. So I made this Airbnb experience and it's still being vetted. And if they vet this, they have to give me a trial run. So I have to do a test run first. And I called it Conservative Video Gamers Hangout. Every Airbnb employee's nightmare. So they're going to be like, oh, Hillary should have won in 2016. And oh, who's this? Conservative video gamer? Oh my God, I have to talk to him. So they're going to call me up if this gets through, and it won't get through because they're all for equality, right? But they're not for freedom of speech or freedom of thought, or they don't want anyone to vote Republican. So I've called myself a conservative gamer to see if they'll actually put this through. So here it is. There I am looking rather miserable, and I'll read you the description. So what we'll do in this Airbnb experience, we'll talk about conservative politics, love, vent our frustrations. Vent our political frustrations at being marginalized by big tech and the mainstream media, and play video games. Feel free to drink something too. The experience is hosted online in my professional recording studio in Tokyo, Japan. I have a professional streaming setup, lighting, and 80s movie paraphernalia such as Back to the Future and Aliens. Notes, just bring your brain and, parentheses, if you want, some booze. That's all you need, and a desire to chill and chat. Good idea, right? Like I'm streaming a video game and we have we chat, we bitch about like extremist radical left culture and how we want to be free and just play some games and have a drink, right? So They sent me a message and said, we're excited to read your submission. Here's what's next. Your experience idea will be reviewed within a few weeks. Every submission is read by a small team at Airbnb because we get hundreds of submissions each week, and it will take some time for us to look at each one. We appreciate your patience. Number 2, this is my favorite part. If your submission is approved, we'll ask you to do a run through of the experience on Zoom, just like you do for guests. Can you imagine? Like I'm going to have I could just troll them and be like, mate, what the fuck are you guys doing? You're in California. Why do you have so many fucking homeless people down there? If you're so virtuous, let them into your fucking house, mate. You're giving all your money to illegals and you can't take care of your American citizens on the streets. If I say that, they're going to get well pissed off. So I might have to do that. But you have to admit, my Photoshop skills for this one are not that bad. Look, come on, man. That's fucking awesome. You know, if I wanted to, I could work for some top tier advertising agency like Apple or Nike or whatever and smash it. But that would be my idea of hell, because anything other than making music is just torture. So you know what? That's about it for today. Fucking hell. I'm a happy bunny because like yesterday I ate loads of meat. I ate some lamb. I had a lamb barbecue. And today I cooked some pork in the pan. Pork is sexy. I never really got into pork that much, but fuck, man. Delish. I'm loving the pork right now. Just slap it in there. And just a bit of salt and pepper. So I've eaten a lot of meat, and men are happy, you know, when they can be carnivorous. So it's been a good day. Thank you for sticking with me this long, because that was a rather epic political rant. And yeah, man, I know I just had to get through it because everyone's talking about this right now. So it's just got to be done. I've been Johnny Massacre, and I tell you what, mate, you better be back for the next video, because otherwise I'll be coming around your house. Make sure to like and subscribe, because that's what all those other cunts tell you to do. And hit that cunting notification bell. Layers.